questions for us. Feel free to put questions into the chat on our site here, and feel free to put questions into the chat. We would love to answer them on our site here over the course of this show. Feel free to put questions into the chat.
Okay, so let's start.
Answer them.
So, being our first show, I think it's a good idea to sort of introduce both sort of ourselves and sort of our company. So, you are Andy of AndyMark. So, can you just give us a bit of a backstory? What is AndyMark company? So, AndyMark, you are Andy of hardware. So, can you just give us a bit of a backstory? What is AndyMark?
So AndyMark, you are first robotic team hobbyist, make what the guy in wheelchairs out of robotic hobbyist, robots on the guys in wheelchairs on park ride, gearboxes on the robot ride, the guys in wheelchairs obviously robotic content, gearboxes on the FRC robots, around the lots of parts, lots of
So, when did AndyMark start? What's a little bit of the history of AndyMark?
We started, Mark Coors and I started this company in 2004.
When did AndyMark start? What's a little bit of the history?
And we started out Mark Coors and I started here in Delphi here in 2004. We really saw a need to have a shop where you could buy common mechanical, mostly, items that we saw first teams using. Back then, you couldn't buy an Omni wheel anywhere. You couldn't buy a shifter gearbox. You couldn't buy even aluminum sprockets, except for the go-kart world, and they were really big. So we started making a few things that were commonly that needed to be commercially available for builders. So 2004, we started working out of our houses at night because we had day jobs, and then eventually I left the day job in 2007. We moved into a technology park during 2007. We had our own building in 2011, had more people working for us at the time, and then 2016, Mark retired, and then we moved into this new building, and just in May of this year. So we have a new building here, and we're moving in, and we already moved in, but we're happy to be in a new home here on the north side of Kokomo.
Very cool. So AndyMark has had some, internet shows or has had some, video presence out there in the world before. We've had Lunch with Andy. We've had, some various things. Sort of what's unique about this show? What makes this show special and new?
Well, I think one of the key things is live. So there's no editing here. I mean, this is legit live right now. So that's a cool thing, and I think I'm sure we'll make many mistakes, and you'll see us make slip-ups along the way. So that's a neat thing, and you're going to see our real reaction to certain things that are brought up. I think also we're more focused on addressing certain issues, and it's also a 30-minute show versus Lunch with Andy was usually a 4 or 5 minute show. We do have a video series of instructional videos, but that's not. It's much more analytical or more instructional versus informative and entertaining. We're trying to be entertaining and have a little fun along the way.
Very cool. So we actually we have it's a bit of a good segue. We do have one of our instructional videos coming a little bit later in the episode tonight. So at some point we will cut away for that. But now I think we're going to get to sort of our in the news.
Hang on a second. So you asked me about me, but you're a very humble guy, Dan. So. What's your role here? What do you do?
So I am a product development engineer here at AndyMark. I work very closely with the FTC product line that we've been developing over the last several years. I started at AndyMark in 2013, back at the old building. But before that, I was a head mentor on a first team. I went to school up in Minnesota for aerospace engineering. So I'm really excited about the coming space game. And even before that, I was on a first team, an FRC team in high school, and I got to participate in the Mission Mars game from Lego League all the way back in my younger days. So this is being able to take my passion for FIRST and what the things that this program has given me, and now kind of stay involved, still be a mentor, still work to provide parts and things for the community at large. I get to take that passion, that hobby that I have, and do it here as a day job.
I think Danny is one of these people. We don't really have a name for it, but he is one of these people who are in FIRST who have been in FIRST for more than half their life. So I guess the challenge to the community would be come up with a name for those people who have been involved with FIRST for more than half their life. That is quite an accomplishment and very impressive. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
So before I interrupt you, you were saying something very important.
No, so yeah, the next big segment of the show is kind of our in the news or sort of our recent developments. And so, one of the things, that sort of the team here at AndyMark, likes to do, over the summer when things are a little bit slower, and we like to kind of kick back and have a little bit of fun.
Things were slow this summer? Just kidding.
It's not build season.
Yeah, you're right.
But we had our third annual AndyMark Fight Night. These are our cardboard battle bots, sort of in a little bit parallel with the show that's on TV right now and keeps us, going Friday nights as we get excited about that. But so I believe we have our Fight Night highlight reel.
That'll air on YouTube later.
That'll be coming to YouTube later. See, this show is live.
It's live.
So keep an eye out on YouTube for the highlight reel. We had a ton of fun. There was a whole lot of robots, like 18 robots in the tournament this year. A whole bunch of destruction. A couple of robots that just got torn apart. And one really impressive machine made it all the way through the tournament. That one was crowned tournament champion at the end. So, I guess moving right along then, there was news from one of the robotics teams out there in the community. They have a new facility that they're putting up. And so to do a little bit of a robotics twist on a groundbreaking ceremony, they built a shovel bot.
Yeah, it looks like they maybe even had 2 shovel bots out there. These guys, it's CCHS Robotics, FRC 5025, and they're in San Diego. And they put a nice video out there showcasing their groundbreaking ceremony, how their robot helped them helped them break ground for their new facility. So kudos to 5025, and maybe someday we'll be out there to visit and see their facility. That would be cool. Another thing that happened this summer, it was kind of neat to see, was this is kind of an ongoing joke, but there's a team in Minnesota. So up where you went to school, but Team 4480 actually made a Mecanum swerve. You can make a Mecanum swerve. So I think the swerve was.
So they had like a 2-wheel swerve on one end, and they had a 2-wheel Mecanum drive at the other end. So
it worked pretty well.
It must be a software nightmare to get all those different systems to play nice with each other. So that's got to be just some software kids on that team sort of flexing their muscle, getting that thing to drive nice. Because they've got a video out on YouTube, and it was driving really well. It was really fun to see.
Now, in my mind, Mecanum swerve meant the Mecanum wheel is actually also the swerve pod. That's not what they did. They did a kind of a half and half hybrid Mecanum hybrid swerve.
Right.
So it wasn't the actual Mecanum wheel swerving. And notice I'm not saying Mecanum. I say Mecanum. You can say it however you want. We don't really know how to pronounce it, but I say Mecanum. You say Mecanum. Okay. We thought that was pretty cool. And somebody picked it up and showed it to us. I don't know how we found that, but it was pretty awesome. There was another one that came out that was just recently, I think a couple weeks ago. There was an FTC team that has a really cool holonomic drive system. And they made a really nice ball roll. I think they used 3 motors to drive 4 balls. Mm-hmm. And it was an FTC 4042. Garfield Robotics. 2002, we started working on a ball drive. We being Mark Coors and I as mentors on the TechnoCats. And it was really Mark's design. I helped a little bit. A couple of students might have helped a little bit build some parts or something like that. But it was really mainly Mark Coors' design. And it was a two-wheel. It was two Omni wheels and two balls. And the balls had ball casters as the bearing device opposing the drive wheel. And so we made this thing and it drove around in the fall, and then we got so attached to it that this is a bad thing, guys. Don't do this. Don't get emotionally attached to your designs. We were emotionally attached to this thing, and we thought that this would have been a really good drive base for the 2003 FRC game, which is essentially, it was a King of the Hill game. It was just pushing people around off this big hill and knocking stacks down. And so we built two drive bases, one of them being a tank drive system with these two arms. It was crazy. But the second drive base was this ball drive base. And it was built, and the second version was built during the build season. And we actually put them both in the shipping crate. And we went to the event with both these robots back when it was legal to do that. And one of the teams at the Midwest Regional that year they were one of those teams that came with a tote and a kit. They didn't have anything. And you didn't have the kit of parts chassis back then that was really worth anything. It was really bad. So we decided to offer them our ball drive robot drive base, and they beat us in a match. And one of the problems with ball drives is if your drive base gets pushed up off the ground a little bit, the ball might come out. So I think the ball came out, went down the hill, went down the ramp, and they still beat us in that match. They couldn't play in the finals because all the other teams voted that shouldn't happen because it wasn't their drive base. Anyway, our Delphi management thought it was pretty impressive, so they actually had us patent it through Delphi as owned by Delphi. So Delphi patented this ball drive mechanism, and then about 5 or 6 years ago, one of my not better decisions, we at AndyMark bought the patent from Delphi. So we at AndyMark own the ball drive patent. Now, if you think about this, that patent would have been started in 2003, I think. So now we're 15 years later, and patents expire in 20 years. So I don't think there's that much value out of this patent. But by all means, if any FTC team or FRC team wants to do with these guys, go right ahead, do it. We're not gonna
pursue.
We're not pursuing anything. Plus, they're not making money off this thing. They just want to make a robot. So good for you guys. You did it better than we did, from what I can tell. So kudos to Garfield Robotics 4042. And
we have a question from the audience, Andy. They want to know what the golden award is on the bottom shelf.
This one here?
The bottom shelf.
Bottom shelf.
Look at that. Gosh.
And that question is from Tacklebat in the Twitch chat.
Tacklebat?
Tacklebat.
Tacklebat. So this is a Woody Flowers Finalist Award sized trophy. But in this case, it was a championship Woody Flowers Award, and I won this. I was very honored to win this in 2003. Now, a brief story. I got a lot of stories on this one, but so I win this award at the championship level in 2003, and I call up first. I talked to Casey Connors at first. For those old folks, you know who Casey is, and she said, and I said, hey, the other Woody Flowers Award winners, they want us to make pins. They want us to have pins so we can see who we are. And she said, as a matter of fact, let's make an award, but it's not a pin. So we want you to start making smaller awards because there's a new effort to have a finalist award. So that started in 2004. And now just last year, after 15 years, we finally have a pin. Eric Stokely made pins this year. So I was able to design this. It was pretty hard to design, actually. This is a 3D. This was a 3D printed part that eventually became a poured urethane mold, and then it's kind of plated like this, so it looks like bronze.
You designed that?
Yeah.
And
See, I can still design stuff. I'm not just management.
well, that was in 2000 and something or another.
You think I forgot since then?
I'm not saying. So our last bit of in the news, our last topic, released just today. Email went out to first people, I think head coaches and the first community, just before showtime. The 2018-2019 first scholarship program had their launch for the year, and there are some really impressive stats in that information that went out. So there is 2018-2019, as of today, this number could grow. There is over $80 million in scholarship. Million. $80 million, and that number's growing every year. So really good work to all the people at First who work on this. Huge thank you to all of the universities and companies who provide these scholarships. $80 million to FRC and FTC alumni is a huge number. That's courtesy of over 200 providers, and there are 2,500 plus unique scholarship opportunities, and it's all through the First Scholarship portal, firstinspires.com/scholarship, if I have that right.
They can
I'm
Google
getting
it.
yeah.
They can Google
I'm getting the thumbs
$80
up
million.
off camera. So these companies, these universities, they want you, the first alumni, to come to their universities. They want you guys involved, and so that's why they're putting up this big money.
I think on that same email I saw that the NASA sponsorships were also announced, and there's a deadline. I think the end of this month. Look at the email, but I think the end of this month there's a deadline for the NASA sponsorships for many teams utilize. So thanks to NASA, and really thanks to all these colleges, universities, and organizations, even companies that provide scholarships for many of these kids. So it's a cool thing. So it's nice to see kids getting full ride scholarships and even partial scholarships for using their brain, not necessarily hitting a ball with a stick or tackling somebody or that kind of stuff. So cool. This is one of the reasons why I'm proud to be a part of First.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I also saw there were some teaser videos going on. There was a teaser video talked about on Reddit recently. We got some phone calls about this. So these are things that happen at AndyMark. We get phone calls about all kinds of stuff. But there was a video where Ken Johnson was talking about what game piece is going to be in this coming year's Rover Ruckus FTC game. And he has all these old game pieces on the table, and he starts knocking them off the table, and inadvertently, a ring and a cube were the last two ones on the table. And that's what he knocks those two off last. And so that means that students and team members were thinking that those were the pieces that are going to be in this coming year's game. And so we had people calling here saying, well, what year was that ring in an FTC game? And do you have any cubes available now? It's like,
Hey, they only gotta wait till Saturday.
That's right. It's only Saturday. It's only 3 days. This is live, but it's Thursday night, so we got less than 48 hours.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Noon Eastern Saturday, Rover Ruckus goes live, and we will be able to talk about all the cool stuff in this year's game field. We're really excited about it, and it's going to be a really cool kickoff come noon Saturday.
Hey, we have been working on a couple new products.
Yeah.
What new products are you most proud of for coming up for this year?
So
for FTC.
Yeah. So one of the things that we got, a lot of people came and talked to us through the champion, our booth at the championship. Anytime we kind of go out to tournaments, get to hang out and interact with the FTC teams. A lot of people told us that they liked the fact that we had a 4-inch macadam wheel that was sort of specially suited for First Tech Challenge, kind of the building system and the ecosystem. But they preferred to use, and they preferred the weight capacity of our more FRC focused 4-inch HD wheel. So, taking the beautiful and brilliant ideas from the community, we redeveloped the center core from the HD macadam wheel, and we thinned it down a little bit. So now it's only as wide as the steel plates, and now we have an FTC specific 4-inch HD macadam wheel. These are going to be, coming out on Saturday is when the website's going to go live on these. They have the same 200-pound load capacity per wheel as the existing HD wheel. Like I said, they're slimmed down a little bit, and we had a sort of a concept car. We had sort of a prototype of this center core out on display at the first championship events, and we got a lot of really great feedback. A lot of people were really, really excited about it. That was, more than enough, for us to send it into production. And so we're getting these ready. We're getting them on the shelf. Web pages are going to go live on Saturday. And we're happy, we're excited to see what you guys out there, do with these, how you use them.
So you're telling me 200 pounds per wheel. So really, they can make an 800-pound FTC robot.
Mm-hmm. They could, except it's illegal.
It's illegal. Why is that?
So in part 1 of the game manual that was released earlier this summer, they introduced a new for Rover Ruckus, new for this year, a 42-pound weight limit for FTC robots. So that's going to be happening at inspection tables at tournaments all over. There'll be a scale there, so robots are going to have to go on the scale.
For the first time in FTC,
Mm-hmm.
really. Yeah, first type challenge, it's a new thing. I mean, so it's a really tight package to design everything within that 18-inch cube that they have. It's a really tight packaging design challenge. And now they have that on top of being a 42-pound weight challenge. So I've seen some robots. What's the heaviest robot that you've seen in FTC?
There was one robot from Velocity Vortex a couple years ago that had sort of an umbilical system, and it started the match in that 18-inch cube and then broke apart into 3 separate robots, and had these 3 robots going about collecting the particles and shooting them up into the center vortex. Now, on their release video, that team showed a weight of their robot at 93 pounds. But that was an absurdly dense robot.
I think it was a lot of 3/16 to 1/8 inch cut aluminum side plates, water jet or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very much custom, the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Very impressive.
Bringing you guys back to the HD Mecanum wheels, we have a question from somebody in the Twitch show. Peter the Earthling wants to know if they come in ball bearing size, or ball bearing bore in that size.
So our more traditional FRC Mecanum wheel, 4-inch HD Mecanum wheel, does have a pocket for an 1 1/8 ball bearing, and so you can get those for a lot of dead axle applications.
But not this width, right? I think they're slightly wider.
Yeah, it's a bit wider. Now, from an application standpoint, if you wanted this wheel and you wanted to kind of stay in the FTC ecosystem, but apply for ball bearings on the center axle, we do have bearing nubs. So you can get a 6mm bearing. They press into the center cavity, they bolt on using the 4-bolt pattern, and then you'd have a free spinning bearing on the middle of the wheel.
That's why he's the expert here. Thanks, Danny.
Absolutely.
There's also, so these fit into...
Peter has a follow-up question. Ooh. Do the individual rollers have ball bearings?
Okay. I wondered if that's what he was asking. So for these rollers, no. These rollers are still bushings. We have looked at ball bearings in our designs, and that's not something we have yet. Maybe in the future, if it turns out.
So the bearing surface on these is the inner portion of the roller is nylon, and that is over a brass tube. So we do have a really low rolling resistance across those two. Those two materials interact really nicely with one another. We have a little bit of shake so that the rollers spin nice and freely, but there is not a ball bearing set at either end of the roller. Very cool. Thanks for the questions. We'll keep those coming. Maybe we'll have a little bit of time here at the end of the show. We can get to a few more of those.
So these fit into a tile runner.
Right? They do, and that's one of the other new products that we're going to be launching is a tile runner with the HD Mecanum wheels. So that'll be another tile runner variant. We've got a whole bunch of those for lots of different applications. We've got our 4-inch standard tile runner variant, and now we'll have the 4-inch HD tile runner variant. So, and that's a really cool package. Talking about the weight limit, it comes in right at about 13 pounds. So it's about a little more than a quarter of the robot weight, but provides a really sturdy, really strong foundation.
We have a lot of other products that are FTC related. This is kind of the season for FTC, obviously. Mm-hmm. So what can you tell us about some of our other products that might have come out late last year or then they might want to look at for FTC this year?
So the kind of over and above the tile runner, we have our S3 building system. That's simple superstructure building system, and that was really developed with the FTC team in mind. It's a small profile, has lots of versatility, lots of adjustability. The slotted pattern along the rails allow you to place brackets or motor components anywhere along those features. So you have kind of the versatility and the adjustability of like an aluminum extrusion sort of system with sort of an infinite rail, but you also have the rigid construction of sort of a nut and bolt pinned system, so that you can always build sort of on that grid. So we've had a lot of good feedback about the S3 system. But then one of our kind of hallmark products from the kind of motor side is the Never Sport. And so these sort of redefine capacity and capability in terms of a small planetary gearbox. They're a tried and true product line. The guts of those came from years of use within the robotics world. And those have some phenomenal load ratings and just a ton of capacity for teams to use.
Last year, I saw one of the FTC robots that had used a Never Sport gearbox. I forget what ratio it was. It was pretty high ratio. They had a long arm that placed the relic way out with a double jointed arm, and this shoulder joint here was their Sport gearbox, and so that couldn't have been a gearbox that would have been a standard Never Rest or a non-beefy gearbox. So okay. These Never Rest Sports are really heavy duty and handle a lot of torque.
Absolutely, yeah. They range from 4 to 1 all the way out to 256 to 1. So just massive loads of potential that you can use with those things.
Mm-hmm. Hey, something you mentioned earlier, something that we talked about videos, and one thing that was involved with FTC fields for the years past has been tapping churros. It's always been a real big forearm builder with turning wrenches and tapping churros. So we made a video for tapping churros. So it's on the AndyMark YouTube channel. I don't know if we're going to show it here or not. Oh, Ruth is saying yes, we're going to show it here. So the churro tapping video is live and ready for viewing.
Absolutely. Are we going to that now or later?
Later.
All right, we'll go to that later. Very cool. So
we've got a couple questions from the audience.
Very cool.
Perfect.
First question that we're going to ask is from chopsticks_rice. Where's the best place to get information for a rookie team?
Ooh. I think one of the best places would be if you can find a veteran team that's sort of nearby, somebody who's been in the game for 3 or 4 years. Being able to tap into that experience is one of the best places. They can kind of always give you the pertinent information for this time of year, kickoff, the next phase, tournament registration, building questions, software questions. My first go is always try to go to the community, to someone specific, a local team, somebody who's been in the game for a bit.
There's Reddit forums and there's Chief Delphi, and there's another forum, I forget. Okay, maybe the Reddit forums are probably the most popular within FTC. They seem to be pretty responsive if you ask questions there. But really, I think your best resource, I agree with Danny, that your best resource for mentoring to a rookie team would be a veteran team. And it doesn't have to be a team in your area. If you're out on your lonesome and on an island of some sort, then you can find a team, and they can do Skype calls, Hangouts, whatever. I know teams who often talk maybe at least once a week about things, and they share ideas, they share successes, failures, all that stuff.
Cool. And we have one more question before we go to the churro video and close out the show. How do presentation materials end up on the AndyMark resource page?
Oh. So I know a lot of those presentations are ones that either you or the staff here at AndyMark have given in the past. So that's those are more our notes, about various different topics, and that's what it's been up through now.
It hasn't been a really popular thing that we've referred to. I think people use them a lot. I think people reference the presentations we have on there. I think they could use an update. Some of them are a couple years old, so maybe that's something that we could look at and improve upon by having more people maybe pointing to certain presentations and maybe voting on their best presentations. So I guess we don't have a way right now to go through a vetting process to get that up on the site. But if that's something the community wants, then maybe that's something we should look at. Right now, it's really our presentations that we own. Well, we own the content that we created the darn thing, and we put them up there. Or we had a part in creating those presentations. Those are the ones that we feel most reflect us. But if there's others that are awesome, let us know about them, and we'll think about putting them on there. I guess that's the process: is ask, and we'll say yes or no. And then they go up or they don't. So yeah, that's a pretty simple process.
So I've got one sort of closeout question. It's sort of been the elephant in the room, thus far through our half-hour broadcast. You're wearing a really cool T-shirt.
We just got these tonight, and I knew you would see us like, dude, I want to wear that shirt. But I think John Kentfield came into my office about a half an hour ago and said, Andy, there's some new T-shirts. They just came in tonight. So this is our space-themed AndyMark T-shirt for this year. I think Liz did the design. She put a rocket on it, which is kind of Liz's, one of her signatures these days. And there's all kinds of cool things in here. There's a jewel, there's stars and moons and all that stuff. And it has AndyMark on the back. So it's a new shirt. You'll see us have these out and about, and they'll be for sale too with our other shirts. So kind of exciting.
Very cool. So our last big note, we are going to be broadcasting live again. Our next show, special event, is going to be this Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We will be back live kind of talking about the new game, Rover Ruckus, kind of our thoughts, our reactions, and we're going to do some cool stuff with the field. So we have, a lot of the kickoffs, that are out there, have a field that they're going to be having on display. But for anybody who can't make it to one of those, we'll be taking some field tours. We'll get to kind of see a little bit of the behind the scenes, at AndyMark here about where the fields are developed. So stay tuned. Tune in for our special kickoff day presentation, 2 p.m. Eastern, this Saturday. But otherwise, I think we're going to close it out. So for Andy, for Dan, for myself, for Ruth and the team behind the camera, I think we're going to close out and cut to our churro video.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you Saturday.
Churro! Not just a delicious snack, but also an incredibly useful structural building component and great for low-load axles. But if you're watching this video, you probably already know what churro is. You just want to know how to tap it. In its natural state, churro is a profile with a through hole all the way through it. That's why it's called a through hole. We're gonna show you how to tap a churro. The process of tapping a part, whether it's churro, peanut, or any of our other parts, means you're adding threads to a hole that doesn't already have threads. For tapping a churro, we use what's called a self-threading screw. Some people call it thread rolling or thread forming, but it all means basically the same thing. Half-inch churro uses 1/4-20 screws, and churro light, 3/8 churro, uses 10/24 screws. They're smaller. Any body or any FIRST robotics team can tap churro regardless of your skill set or tool set. In the first method, we're gonna head on over to our old buddy, the bench vise. Since we're working with 1/2-inch churro, we're gonna go ahead and chuck our 3/8 driver into the drill. Then we're gonna set one of those 1/4-20 screws inside the driver. It's especially helpful if you have a magnetic one, because then you don't have to worry about dropping any of the screws. Make sure your drill is in its low speed, high torque setting. Set the screw into the opening of the churro, put a little bit of oomph behind the drill, and hit go. You can choose to run that screw all the way into the churro or just a little bit. If you only partially tap the churro, that's fine. You can finish tapping it in your assembly later. For the second method, we're still gonna use our old buddy bench vise. But instead of using a drill, since many people don't have one, we're gonna use a ratchet. and a 3/8 driver. Using this method is going to take a bit more gusto than the drill method. Like with the first method, you can choose to tap the churro all the way or just partially. If you only tap it partially, that's fine. You can just save some of your workout for later. But Brett, I don't have a vise. I can't do it quite as nice. That's not true. And the last method, you can do it too. If you're tapping 1/2-inch churro, grab a 1/2-inch open-ended wrench. If you're tapping 3/8 churro, grab a 3/8 open-ended wrench. Hold the wrench and churro in one hand and the ratchet with the screw in your other hand. Begin tightening the screw into the churro. It might take a bit of coordination, it might even be easier if done with a friend, but anyone can tap a churro with this method. In the first two examples, we talked about tapping 1/2-inch churro. If you're working with churro light, 3/8 churro, you're going to use 5/16 tools instead of 3/8. And there you have it. You've tapped some churro. You can see it in places like your local First Tech Challenge competition field, and even some of our products like the Evo Shifter and AM1ForU 3 chassis. Thanks for hanging out with us and watching the video. Follow us on social media to find out when we post more fun videos just like this one. Thanks for watching.